What's up, y'all? I'm Kelly Clarkson.
Hey, it's Dave McCrae.
Hey, I'm Josh from the band Need to Breathe.
I'm Olivia Lunny.
We are so excited to welcome to the Kelly Alexander Show, Akon. Hi.
What up, Kels?
Hey, I'm Judy Gold.
And I'm hanging out with the Kelly Alexander Show.
This is Jordan, and I'm hanging out on the Kelly Alexander Show.
I'm Rob, and I'm hanging out on the Kelly Alexander Show.
I'm hanging out with the Kelly Alexander Show right now.
Jealous?
We are beyond excited to welcome this very talented dancer and choreographer to the Kelly Alexander Show, Guero Charles, who has worked with basically everyone: Beyonce, Jennifer Lopez, Tate McRae, Backstreet Boys, and of course his long-standing relationship with Janet Jackson. Guero, I cannot tell you how happy I am to have you on our show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Well, this is amazing. I've been following your journey, of course, since you started with Janet, but I look forward to actually starting off with you telling us about your dance journey. So let's start back at the beginning. When did you take your first dance class, and why did you take your first dance class?
Oh gosh. Okay. When did I do this? I think I started when I was a sophomore in high school. It's kind of muddy or cloudy because I was a baseball player forever. My whole family does sports. They all do baseball, softball. But I was a baseball player for the longest. And then whatever the year You Got Served came out was the year I remember going to the movies, watching that and being like, wow, I want to do this. And then not really knowing how to get into it. And just somehow my mom worked with somebody who had a studio, whose family member had a studio. And I ended up going to that studio, but it was all Latin dance. It was for quinceañeras, and every weekend you would go perform at these birthday parties. So I don't really remember. I just remember trying to juggle both baseball and dance. And I remember being on the baseball field and being like, you know what? I want to be in the studio right now. So I would say 16, 17, in that realm was my first dance class ever, which wasn't even a legit dance class because I was just a part of this company that performed at birthday parties. So I never really took a dance class until I started switching from the Latin world into the commercial world. And I did Monsters of Hip Hop, which is a convention that travels, you know? But yeah, that was my first time. And I think You Got Served was the catapult that was you're gonna dance. I'm I want to be in a crew. I want to battle, you know? Even though I hate battling, I would never.
That's awesome. Have you had a chance yet to work with Dave Scott? Because I know he did that movie.
No, I haven't. I think once I started getting into heavy dance, our just lanes went different ways, you know? I never really crossed paths with him. I don't even think I've ever even taken a class from him, I don't think. It just hasn't crossed yet.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
Tell us about you getting your chance to, and how you decided to make the move to Los Angeles.
Okay. This is also just such an abrupt story. I feel everything is so abrupt. So I was at a different studio back home that did a little bit more hip hop, I guess kind of dancing. And I was doing a lot of Monsters of Hip Hops. I did every Houston one, and then I ended up traveling to different cities to do them. I would go to Denver, I would go to Chicago, or I would go to LA by myself to just go do these conventions and take classes from everyone. And my first year, I got nominated to be a part of the Monsters of Hip Hop show, which is it's they pick 4 people from every city. And then at the end of their tour of the cities, they pick a cast of 12 to 16 sometimes dancers. And they put on this big show in LA, and you work with all these choreographers who put numbers in that show. And then everyone goes to watch it, whatever. So my first year, I got nominated for the show, which was 2011, I think. And then I didn't get the show. The next year came around, and I was like, I really want to get this show. This is what I want to do. So then that's when I started to travel to all the cities to try to just get more exposure and get my face, you know, in the room more often. And that year I got nominated as well, which was 2012. And then I booked the show that year. And I was like, Mom, Dad, like, I have to move. Like, I can't do this show and then just come back home and let, like then the next year's cast is going to come in and then those are going to be the faces of like who's around LA and who's in front of these people. So I was like, I have to move. And then I say like put in my like Houston Life's 2 weeks notice and was like, I'm out of there. Like I like just tried to teach as much as I could, raise a little money, get connected with who I needed to out here to figure out living and just like, like my LA journey. And yeah, I came out here for that show and I stayed after and I've been here ever since. So since 2012, I think it was like July, August.
Did you acclimate really well to LA? Like, were you just so driven that it didn't matter no matter what?
I remember crying a lot. I remember crying a lot at the beginning, more so because of just like it was a huge shift. But I had a lot of friends and I got into circles really quickly with good people. And I think that helped. And my apartment that I lived in at the beginning was like a 4-bedroom and a couple rooms had like shared the room. So there was a lot of us in there, which never felt like so like alone. Like I never felt like I was in solitude. I felt like there was still something happening around me to keep me um a little more present than like falling into these holes of like, oh my God, I miss home. And then once I started like taking classes and getting a routine going, it kind of started rolling.
What would you consider to be your first big break?
My first big break, I would say it was right after that monster show, a choreographer who I like adore and who also just like kind of felt like looked after by her. Her name is Laura Edwards. She actually booked me on this music video for Justin Bieber, and it was the Beauty and a Beat music video. It's like the water park one. And that was my first gig that kind of just was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. I love this. Like it like solidified what I thought LA was gonna be like. And I guess like looking to now, it is what it's like. Yeah.
And did you like, so doing the music video, you've obviously been in a bunch more since then. Do you like doing music videos or do you find them tedious? Because I know like you're on set for hours and hours and hours.
I do enjoy music videos. I haven't done that many. I've done maybe like 6 or 7 around there. But I do enjoy them. It is long days though. Um, but yeah, the ones that I've done have been pretty chill and fun. Um, but I don't know if I have ever done one that's like an all night or like a feedback, where it's like the entire video is like us. So I don't know. I think they've been pretty chill for now. I don't know how those other ones are, like day wise.
Now, I'm going to bring you back to music videos in a bit, but I need to start with this question. How did you get your first opportunity to join the Janet camp?
So, wow, we're really like jogging the memory. It's like I'm like, where am I? I think so. I'm having a hard time remembering if the BET tribute was before the Unbreakable audition, which we didn't know was an Unbreakable audition. We just knew it was an audition for Jay. But it was one of those. I feel like the audition had to be first, but there was an audition for Janet, and it was a close call. And before it turned into Unbreakable, I remember it was just like you just went and we were just going for her. And at the end of the audition, like it was a 3-day process, and I want to say it was like 2 days back to back, and then we had a long break, and then they brought people back. They made cuts the first day, cuts the second day, and then they brought everyone back that third time. But it had been like a few days or maybe even a week in between that for the third part of the audition. And that's the one that she was at. And yeah, we just did our groups and like we auditioned, and at the end there was 10 boys and 10 girls. And that's when they like made the announcement that it was going to be an all girls thing, but the 10 boys were going to be like the 10 boys for whatever happens in the future, you know? And yeah, and then Unbreakable happened, and it was like a year or two, and then randomly after she came back from the baby, like having a baby, she Gil hit me and Denzel up at the same time and had us on FaceTime. And what was funny is that I ignored his call so much because I was doing another job at the time, and it was like heavy rehearsals, and I was like in production, I was tired. And he kept trying to call me early in the morning, and I was like, I am not answering this. Like, because we would chat all the time. We're friends. So like sometimes we just chat on the phone for about anything. So that's what I thought it was. And I was like, stop calling me. And then finally he texted and he's like, can you answer? I'm trying to have a moment. And I was like, what is going on? And then Denzel had texted me too, I think, to say to answer the phone. And it was early because it was before rehearsal. So it must have been like 8 or 9 in the morning. And that's when he was like, do you guys want to go on tour? And I was like speechless, but also just like, this isn't happening. Like, you're asking me about something that's in 6 months. Like, this isn't real, you know? And yeah, that was the big break. And then 6 months passed and it happened.
Were you a Janet fan before you got this opportunity? Like, was she someone you always wanted to dance with?
Absolutely. 100%. That Janet, Michael, Brittany, like they are the reason I even do this. Like, it's like, yeah, I was a huge fan. And I just was so like inspired by the work they put out, and like it's timeless. So I always wanted to be a part of something that stands the test of time.
Now, when I interview a Janet dancer, I always like to ask them, because it's always different how the stories roll out, but I love to hear what it was like when you met Janet for the first time or she walked into the room for the first time. So you have to tell us, like, especially knowing that you were a fan to begin with, like, what was it like when you first met her or she saw you dance?
So the first time I kind of met her, it was that audition process. But I think the second day of auditions, Gil had her on FaceTime, but I don't think a lot of people knew that she was on FaceTime. But I could just tell because I know Gil, like the way he was acting and he had his phone and the way he was talking, I was like, oh, she's on the phone. So like we kind of introduced, like she didn't, but I introduced myself there. But then the third time where she was actually in the room, I just remember the room got very quiet when she walked out of the side room that she was in. And I remember Gil being like, chill out, everyone, like take a breath, like it's fine. And everyone just started laughing and she started laughing. And then when we auditioned for her, I channeled that audition from that moment on. I channeled that audition everywhere I go because I just felt so supported and so free. Like I did not feel like I was being judged or critiqued. I felt like my friend was like showing me off to his friend. Like I felt like he couldn't wait for me to show what I could do to her. And I felt the same from her. Like I felt like she trusted him, trusting me almost. And it was like one of the best and most inspiring auditions and days I've ever experienced. Yeah. And then obviously once I booked the gig and we were in rehearsals, it's very timid at first. Like, like everyone's trying to get to like know each other. But she's a sweetheart and she's the nicest person, and she's like, you just forget who she is. It's like I'm talking to my sister almost. Like I'm like, oh, hi. I forgot. Janet Jackson, hi.
Is she everything you thought she would be then and more kind of thing? Because I think we all have ideas of what she's like before you meet her.
she definitely surpassed it. And I think because I had done jobs before that with artists, I kind of forgot to think about those things, like think about like what I think she's gonna be like, or like how I picture her in my head or picture someone in my head. I think I was just like in a flow of like, I go to the job, I do rehearsals, the artist comes in, like, you just kind of get like numb to it, not in a bad way, but just like accustomed to it. But just how nice she is and how normal and friendly and like chill she is, I think it definitely surpassed, like it made me think back and be like, oh wow, like I'm in a room with a superstar, but also I'm in a room with somebody who feels like I've known them forever.
Now that you have obviously worked with her for so long, and you work with other artists like we mentioned, like Beyonce, Jennifer Lopez, Tate McRae, the list goes on. Because I've had a bunch of other Janet dancers on before, and I remember one of them said to me specifically, their first big job was Janet, and then they went to other artists that were big at the time, and they said it was such an eye-opening experience because she's like, we had been so well treated with Janet. And then when we went other places, it just wasn't the same. So is that kind of what you have in your experience also?
Yeah. Thankfully mine was the other way around because I feel like I would have been so bummed. But speaking to other people who have danced with her prior to me starting rehearsals for State of the World, which was the first tour I did, everyone said that. Like they were like, enjoy it, like live it up because you're never going to experience anything like it ever again. And that has been the most honest and true thing I've ever heard. Um, and yeah, like she treats you so well. She respects you as a person, as an artist, like, and I think that's the hard thing in other places. It's like the person and the business and like all of that gets kind of like muddled and we just kind of forget things. And I feel like no matter what, she never forgets that we are all people first. And yeah, she wants you to be just as beautiful as she is on stage with her. She wants you to be just as seen. If the lights are she has a spotlight on her, if the lights are too low on us, she'll be like, why aren't they lit? Like, why can't I see them? Like, why is it so dark? She makes us look our best all the time. Like, she'll sit there and be like, okay, like hair, what are we doing? She'll be like, when we put on our costumes for the first time, she's always like adjusting. She'll go one by one and she'll like digest and like dissect everyone's look and what maybe will make it look better. And, like, oh, you have a lot of tattoos on your arm. We should show that because that's a great quality that you have in your look. And I've never experienced that before. And like people who I've worked with in the past have been nice, but she just cares so much about you. It's crazy. Even just saying it now, it's crazy. I'm like, what is this life?
Well, that leads me to my next question because all of us who follow you guys, especially the guys that have like you and Denzel mostly, I would say, because you've been with her a long time now. You guys even got to go to the fashion awards, the fashion show with Christian Siriano like last fall. So what does it feel like to be like brought into that world also? Because I remember watching your social media stories and it looked like you guys were just having the best time and it was like a lot and fun and just consuming.
It was a lot for sure because it was a very fast like trip that we did. Like we flew in, slept, went to her place very early, got ready, went to the show, went to dinner, went out, and then went home. Like it was so fast. Um, but it feels safe. And I think that is what is so nice about the family and like the people around her is you always feel safe and calm. And no matter how whirlwindy it is around you, like I felt like we were one big person, like going to this fashion show, sitting down, watching the show. also Christian's like a really good friend of hers, and we've met him before and hung out with him. So it's like it just feels very safe and warming. Like you would think like, oh, it must be hectic or like scary or nervous. Like we were all nervous in the car getting out, like before we got out. We were watching because we obviously wanted to wait till the show was about to start to go in. So we sat in the car and waited and watched every camera person in the entire city line up and take photos, and how like people would walk in before us, like other celebrities, and you would see how like the cameras would start flashing and it would just be like crazy and everyone's like just hectic. So seeing that happen over and over again before you're about to get out is nerve-wracking, but we all felt that together. And then as soon as we got out, it was like, it just felt like we were doing a show. Honestly, it's like, okay, showtime.
Can you explain, Guero, to the fans what it's like to watch Janet? Because obviously she's been doing this since she was like 6 years old, so she's been in the spotlight like literally forever. But can you explain to the fans what it's like to be around her, watching her handle when she has to be on? Because like I remember when I told you before we had the great privilege of speaking to Oni and to Erin and to Jill, and they all talked about how like there's an aura around her and she's aware of it, but she's also human. So like, what is it like to watch that? Because it's fascinating how she has to be like people literally lose their marbles for her, and she has to take that in, but then still be normal.
Yeah, I don't know how she does it. It's like it's not even like as complicated as like a light switch. It's like even more simpler in my eyes. Like when I see it happen, it's like, oh, it just happens. Like it's so crazy. I remember like in terms of like a show, like she's always on, and I don't know, we just call her like Superwoman because sometimes it's like, like as a person you feel like, oh, I'm exhausted this day, or like, this show's gonna be a little tougher, or this show's like feels like a breeze, it changes like ebb and flow, but she always is on no matter what. And the switch does happen. Like I remember for Fashion Week when we got out of the car, like she was like, as soon as we turn this corner of the car, like around the reverse lights or whatever, the brake lights, they're gonna start taking photos. So like, like basically that was like our cue to like, once you turn the corner, like it's on, like you got to be on. But it's really inspiring and special to see because it just happens so easily for her. And I don't know, maybe that is because she started so young, but I also just think she is not like, she is a one of a kind, like a species of her own.
Yeah, that's what we said with the girls, like with the backup vocals. I said that she's otherworldly, like she's otherworldly. Like it's yeah, okay. Can you talk to us too about you and Denzel? What is it about you two that she keeps bringing back? Like, why are you guys always still with her? Which I think is amazing.
I don't know. Well, so me and Denzel have done so that monster show that started my career basically or started my move and career, I want to say, I guess. He also did that show that same year. So we did that show together. And then my first tour, which was Victoria Duffield in Canada, like it was a Canadian tour, Denzel also did that tour with me. And then when I did my first American tour, which was Demi, Denzel did that tour with me. And then when I did J-Lo in Vegas, Denzel did that residency with me. And we also did like some company stuff here that wasn't like work related, but like training stuff, we did it together. And then obviously now we do Janet together. So it's like, maybe there's just because we've been working together for so long and like on this journey, basically a similar journey in our own paths, but they've been like side by side, maybe there's just like an unspoken like chemistry between us as like people, but also as performers. Um, yeah, I don't know. And we're just really good friends too. Like we laugh a lot. We make sure everyone's taken care of. We take care of each other. We take care of her. So I don't know. It's like maybe there's just a trust there. And because we have a prior relationship to just this job, maybe the trust is even more than we feel it on the outside.
What's been the biggest difference for you going from dancing on the State of the World tour with, a bunch of amazingly talented women dancers, female dancers, and now it's the boys? What's that been like, that transition, just being you and Janet, as opposed to having the other women with you guys?
It's a different energy for sure. But both are great. Like I loved when there were women on SOTW. But I also love the all guys look as well. Like it's just a different aesthetic and just an energy on stage, you know. But I don't know. I don't know if there's a big shift that actually happened, like, or what I felt that happened. I just think, I mean, obviously that group of girls, I was friends with a lot of them prior to that. Like I had relationships with them as well. And I feel like this tour, the only person I had that relationship with prior to was Denzel, really. Like I knew Maniac. Um, like I knew of him. We're friends on like Instagram and stuff, but I didn't hang out with him or like, like do a lot of jobs with him or dance with him all the time. And Dario, same thing. So I think it was like that was the biggest shift of like the cohesiveness of the group prior to the job. It was like the girls cast was like this already, and then this cast now we had to get like this in the job.
What does it feel like for you to now know, and obviously it's been this way for years, but like for the rest of your life, you are one of the kids?
I mean, it is definitely like, I guess like a title I don't take lightly at all. Like I really have never thought about it. And it's just like, it's very special to me. Um, and I don't know, I'm just like very proud of it. And I would literally say it for the rest of my life, I think, because it's just such a big milestone in general, but also for me personally and in like the world of Janet in general. It's just such a huge accomplishment by just having, like the little nickname that we're considered.
And when you guys did the State of the World tour and she had the Hollywood Bowl reunion with all the former dancers, then the choreographers, Tina Landon, Anthony Thomas, like, Kelly Kono, like Nikki, like they were all there, Gil and Tice. What did that feel like for you watching the OGs come in?
When the show happened, I didn't even want to dance. Like I wanted to just stand there and watch because it was so incredible and so inspiring. And it's also just, I think it speaks like volumes as to like the person that she is, that every single person that could be there was there, like unless there was a conflict or, whatever the case may have been, that stage was full to the brim of people who have danced with her before. And I think it just speaks to the person that she is, the gravity of the job, the gravity of the legacy, all of it. I think I don't know, like I remember watching the sound check where everyone came in and like kind of staged it, but also like did it for the first time. And I was like sitting there and I was just like, I can't believe this is actually happening. And it was so difficult because, you want to watch everybody. Like, like I loved All For You Tour. I love Velvet Rope. I love Janet. I love them all. But I'm like, I want to watch Jenna. I want to watch Tice. I want to watch Gil. I want to, like, I want to watch Tina. I want to watch everyone. It's just like how there's no way in this like little 30-minute, if even, sound check. And then I have to actually do my part of the Rhythm Nation too. So I'm like, how do I see everybody and get the most out of this? It's impossible. So it was just such a great thing that happened.
Who did you look forward to meeting the most during that night? Because like you said, everybody came in. Was there someone that was super special to you that you admired growing up?
I think when I was old enough to actually know what was happening and going on, and like, because I think I went to Offer You Tour in Houston, but I didn't go. My mom went, and I think I just was so little that I had to go with her. Because I remember her telling me to close my eyes and, like, and would you mind? Like, she was like, close your eyes right now. So I was very young, but once I got to the point of being able to digest people and like choreography and like even just dance in general, I feel like that cast was the first cast that I was like, oh, I see this person, I can see this person, I know who this person's this name, like um it was, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like Jenna was very memorable to me because, the pink hair, the pink purple hair, um, and there was just so many people. I feel like it was kind of overwhelming to meet everybody. Like, I don't even think I met Tina in that moment because I obviously, like, when everyone came out, we were working, like it's like, okay, let's stage Rhythm Nation tour, let's stage this tour, let's stage this tour. And then it was our turn to do the breakdown. And it was just like everything. And then we all got ready, did the show. And then I don't even remember after that. Like, I don't really remember if we went to a party or if we went home or what happened after that. It was just a lot. But I mean, there's just so many people there that I would have loved to meet and that I probably did meet and just like am now just overwhelmed and don't even remember.
It was a big night for everybody. And like you said, I don't think there's any other artist on the planet that could have done that except for Janet. Like, she's the only one I think that loves and cares for her dancers to that level. So it was
I completely agree.
amazing. So joining us on the show, we're always very excited to have him with us, is dancer and choreographer Guero Charles. Make sure you follow him on all of his social media at Guero_Charles. Let's talk a little bit about Together Again 2.0. So you guys were out last year. Now you're coming at us again. Can you speak about what it was like, especially because it was not that long ago that you still kind of had to do choreography from Together Again 1, and now you're switching gears. Has it been challenging to do that, like to wrap your head around new choreography?
Yes and no. I think because like I've been in the world for quite some time now, like since 2017, there's a lot of things that are like blindfolded, one arm behind my back, like on my like knees. I don't know, like the wildest things I could probably do without even thinking about it. But I feel like storing like new things for the future and then like putting them in the back of your head, but not fully forgetting them until we revisit them, which will be soon now. I think it probably is challenging to like anybody, but I think it was not the craziest for me personally, just because I mean, I do love choreography. I used to take classes and test myself on like, how quick can I pick this up? Or I'd be like, let's see if I can remember this combo from this tour from years ago. Like I always am just really trying to make sure I'm sharp up here for this job in particular, but even just moving forward, like in the future. But it hasn't been too crazy. We've been doing a lot of it though, like a lot, like any second we get, we are learning new stuff. And then it's like, okay, well, let's get ready for the show. And then it's like, we don't revisit it for a while. Like we did something when we were in Hawaii and we haven't revisited it since then. Yeah.
What's it like a day in life? Can you give us an example, a day in the life of you guys in rehearsal?
Okay. I can do, it's been a little different, the different tours, but I think Metamorphosis is a good rehearsal program. So the first day of rehearsal, you show up and then you do an hour workout, all together, Jay included. And then after that, you probably like get some water, whatever, get a snack, and then you just start learning and you'll probably learn until like you go to lunch. And then I'll say like towards the beginning of the process, you're learning maybe like one, two numbers. And then once we start getting like closer to, it's like more crunch time. So you'll probably learn like 3, 4 numbers at a time. But it's different every tour. Like State of the World tour, me and Denzel came in and the girls already knew Unbreakable, which State of the World was almost like the same. It's kind of like, I guess, what we're doing now. It's like the template of Unbreakable to State of the World. So me and Denzel learned the entire show, I want to say the first 5 days, like Monday through Friday, we just like kept going and kept going. And it was only 2 of us, and we've danced together for so long, we kind of work and play off of each other in a very good way that we just kind of flew by the show. And then Metamorphosis was a little more dissected because we had to teach everyone who came in for that. And then this tour, I feel like, I mean, we haven't started yet, but I feel like we'll probably, if we don't do workout, we'll just start learning. And you're learning all day, and then at the end of the day, end of rehearsal day, you will do what they call honorary, which is where Gil will pick somebody random, and he'll pick a random number that either you learned that day or that is in the repertoire that we already know. And everyone sits at the front, and Janet sits at the front, Gil sits at the front, and then you have to do that by yourself and do it for everybody. And I guess that's like your test. To like, I mean, not really, because it doesn't feel stressful. It feels, you feel supported for sure. Like, it's not like I feel like if I messed up, I wouldn't get in trouble. But I don't want to mess up. Like, that's not something I want to do. Like, I want to nail it.
What's
But
it
yeah,
like? Because we've heard that Janet, is a beast in rehearsals where like she just zones in. And I don't mean beast in a bad way. I mean just super focused doing her thing. What is she like for you when you watch her? Because like obviously she's not only dancing, she's got to make sure she's singing as well.
When I watch her in rehearsals, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, she is a beast. Yeah, like that's like the perfect term. Like, even just watching her learn like my choreography for this coming tour, I'm like, wow, you get it like a dancer gets it. And like I remember asking her if something was gonna be weird with the timing that I gave her, but also what she has to sing in that moment. And she was like, no, it won't be weird. I just have to get used to it. I have to try it. And I have to practice it. And it's like that moment where I was like, wow, you're just like incredible. Like, like somebody else would probably be like, oh, that's not going to match up with like what I'm singing, and it's going to be too, like I can't separate it. But she didn't even second guess it. Like she was like, no, it's fine. And she just picks up so quick. And like with the dancer, it's like when I teach my classes here in LA, I break stuff down, and I'm like, I kind of try to show like where it's stemming from, or like where you pull from, or how do I initiate this step. But with Jay, it was like I just kind of showed her, and she loved to see it in rhythm of the song. Like she didn't, like sometimes you go slow, sometimes you go a little faster, but she wanted it in rhythm, and she picked it up so fast. And I was like, wow, you really, first off, the style of dance, but you also know your music so well, and you know what I'm dancing to, and you know what you're dancing to. So it was just really cool to watch. But yeah, she works hard. She works like us. Like she knows the goal, and she works to get there.
We have to talk about your choreography. So before we talk about the fact that you've been choreographing for this tour, let's talk about how you've evolved into this. Like, has it been a natural progression? Like, because I know, like, I've interviewed some other dancers before, and they were scared to make the transition because they're like, I don't know if I'm ready. How did you know you were ready to start choreographing?
So I've kind of been choreographing since I was back home in Houston before I moved, but like little things, like it almost like you got served of like, oh, this is my crew or whatever, and I would just make up stuff. And I taught classes there, and then when I moved here, I kind of just let it go for a while, just because I was like, I have a lot to teach back home, but now that I'm small fish, big pond, I'm like, I want to soak up everything here. And then I never even thought about teaching. And then I want to say it was like 2015, 2016. I was like, I wanted to do this big show back home in Houston. And I did a show it was called Awaken. And I basically just rented out a theater 2 nights, sold tickets, and then I had like 10 to 12 dancers from Houston that I loved working with and that I thought were so talented and like I danced with growing up. And then my friends from here, I had like 10, I think, 9 or 10, fly to Houston and did the show also. So it was kind of like a mixture of both. Like Denzel was there, Mache was there. There was a lot of people there. But we did the show, and then that kind of catapulted me into teaching out here because I was like, I think I'm ready to share like just freely. Like I don't want to teach every week. I don't want to have this like obligation to put out a combo every week and just be like exhausting my like creative space. So I've kind of made this like I teach when I want to teach schedule and when I have something to teach. And yeah, I just feel like being around like Gil and Luther and Miguel and the different artists and the different like directors and creative spaces, I just feel like I've learned a lot. And even like, I don't know if you know who Dana Foglia is. She's danced with Janet back like, what album was it? It was like when she was like promoting feedback and stuff like that time. But I trained under her a lot as well. And I just feel like I had so much to share that was still my voice, but with with the eyes of these people for all these years. And then, yeah, and then I just somehow got into this bring pop stars back like hashtag. And I don't even know if it was me who said that or somebody else who said that, but it just kind of stuck with it. And now it's just like, I don't know, it's just like a kind of a seamless thing. And I do want to choreograph. I was a little nervous at first because, like when you in the world now in LA, when you when you start doing choreography and you start working for artists or whatever, they kind of like your agents kind of stop seeing you as a dancer, or like the world, honestly, just stop seeing you as a dancer and you stop working as a dancer, which I think was the most fear I had because I'm not done dancing and I don't consider myself fulfilled yet, like as a dancer. But I do think I would love to start venturing into the choreography world. Um, excuse me. But yeah, I don't know why that happens, but back in the day, it was like, Gil did Janet and he still danced with Jay. Brian did Brittany and he danced with Jay and Brittany, like Jerry did Christina and he danced with Jay. And, like everyone was just like rotating around all these artists, but they were still creatively executing things, but also still dancers. And I don't know when that shifted, but it's a big shift now. So I think that was my biggest fear, which is why I'm taking it very slowly.
How would you describe your style, Guero? Because like from what I've seen, like I've been able to see clips from like your Bring Pop Stars Back, and I love you and I've talked before about how much I love Tate McRae, and I know you love Tate McRae and you love working with her. Like you really seem to have a style that sticks out from like, because like I'm sure you've heard this. I think there's many choreographers in the entertainment industry right now where it's samey, like it's nobody seems to stick out. You stick out. So how do you describe your style?
Oh, well, thanks for that first. Thank you. I mean, it's definitely a strong jazz funk, street jazz base. Um, but I feel like I wanted my classes to feel like it was on stage. Like I wanted, like, like I remember when I first started doing like tours, people would be like, "Oh, you learn so much being on the job because you can't learn that in class. Like you don't learn certain things in taking just by taking a class. Like you learn how to have stage presence and be with the artist and interact and have chemistry and like there's just things that happen that you don't really get in your everyday like training life." So I wanted to also include that in my world of teaching to some extent. And I feel like my choreography does that as well, like having moments and, like just being able to take that class as is and put it on a stage I think is where my mindset is always at when I'm creating. But yeah, I want to say it was like a jazz funk bass with there is a little technique, but I'm not technical, like super technical. So it's just stuff that I've learned from people in the past that I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna rond de jambe and point my foot, like it's like things like that. It's not like I'm gonna do like a penché or like a battement or something. But who knows? Maybe I will, it's just whatever happens. But I think my style is jazz funk with like stage involved. And maybe that's why it sticks out. I don't know.
How did the opportunity come for you to do some choreography for Janet?
So how did it? What city were we at? We were somewhere getting ready to do a show, and I remember us being on stage and we were about to do a run through. And Jay had posted one of my classes on her Instagram. It was to a Dua Lipa song. Um, I want to say like right before the pandemic hit, because that was my last class before the pandemic. And she reposted it on her Instagram. And I just remember being like, wow, like she loves it. Like that's an honor. And then years pass, and then this was last year, I want to say, whatever city we were at, getting ready to do this run, she came up to me and she was um, like nonchalantly, first off, like, which it isn't nonchalant to me. So the fact that she just thought it was casual conversation is hilarious. But she was like, I've seen some of your classes and I like love your choreography. Like, I would love for you to do something for the show or for the tour. And she was like, obviously, if you want to. And I was like, what? I'm like, what do you mean if I want to? I was like, I would love to. And then I literally got chills like all over my body. And I remember saying, like, oh my God, I just got the chills. And she was like, oh, is it too cold in here? And I was like, what? I'm like, no, it's not cold. It's not the temperature. It's literally you asking me to do something that I also love doing for you, which is choreography. Like, it's a big thing for me and it's a big moment. And I just remember I could not stop replaying that interaction like for days after. And I told one of my best friends, and she was like, oh my God, like, as you should, like, I think it's the perfect timing. And like, it's right. And then we kind of just let it go for a while. And then it wasn't until this new tour got announced that Gil was like, okay, I think we want all of you guys to do 2 numbers or do some numbers. And then it just happened. And here we are now, and I have numbers done.
That's crazy. And when you were watching her do your stuff, what does it feel like?
It, when, I don't know, it's like, it's kind of like an out of body experience. Like I felt like I was watching everybody in the room, including myself, in the moment of her learning. Because, like I said, she is such a natural, which is so crazy to me because there are so many professionals who struggle with a lot of things in choreography. And she sings and like she dances, but like she didn't train like 25 years of her life in dance classes and ballet and all these things, but she gets it and she knows where it all comes from. And I think that was the most like crazy moment for me because I'm like, wow, how, and I'm not even breaking it down for you. I'm just showing you and you're able to pick it up and you look just like me doing it. And yeah, it's just really special. It's such a special thing.
When you're creating for artists like Janet, like, do you have to think in your brain, like, is this going to look good on her body? Like, how do you set yourself up to make them look successful?
I think it was easy with Jay because of how long I've been with her. And, like, obviously I'm aware of what's going on around me too. And I watched the tours growing up. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen Velvet Rope and Offer You HBO special. Like, I watch it all the time. And when somebody's like, I haven't watched it, I'm like, we're watching it right now. So, like, and her essence and the way she moves and the way she executes things it's been the same ever since. So it kind of like in my mind when I was creating, I knew where I wanted to go with her specifically. So it wasn't that difficult. but also my classes, I like to say like it's for the artist, you know, like I can picture the artist doing this. So, or doing a version of this. So I feel like when I started the steps for the boys and myself, I already kind of knew where I wanted Jay to like tap in and tap out and do her thing. And also just watching her do her thing, she is very, she has like nuances that are very her. And I think I did a great job of including that to make her feel safe in a new space of learning my stuff, but also learning new things as well.
How do you work with the band when you're doing your choreography? Because obviously they can do accents for you and all that kind of stuff so that it really pops on stage. Like, so what's that process like?
So for this stuff in particular, we haven't really done anything with the band, or like I haven't done anything with the band, but Gail has obviously like told me like it's gonna be this, it's gonna be this part of the song, like this verse, this chorus, whatever, like a breakdown if that's in there. But we've kind of, I mean, if it's stuff that we've done in the past and that we're like bringing back music wise, we kind of have that template to base it off of. But I think once we get into like production rehearsals, like actually like rehearsing together, band, dancers, Jay, everyone, we start to like fine tune like, oh, if there's something that we're hitting that is missing in the music, we'll tell them, or Jay will tell them. Or vice versa, if there's something in the music that we didn't really choreograph to because it's not in the regular track, then we can adjust there. But it's usually like, I feel like that happens like towards the end.
Speaking of the band, now would be a good time to talk about the fact that like when you guys did, last year, you were able to finish the tour with the amazing musical director, Daniel Jones, before his untimely passing. Are you, first of all, I'd love for you to share your thoughts on what it was like to be around Daniel, what it was like to work with him. And then my second part of the question would be, are you guys, I don't know what the word would be, like concerned because he's not there this time as you guys get ready to go out for the second part of this tour?
Okay. So for the first part of what you asked, I mean, Daniel was amazing. Like, it was so jarring and like so sad what happened, like of his passing. It was just like so abrupt and so like um blindsided, I guess is a good word to use. I don't even know. Um, but he was just such a light and such a special like contribution to the entire world of just like entertainment in general, but especially the world of Janet. Like, he always had amazing energy. No matter what was going on, he was always happy, laughing, cracking jokes. And me and him had such a great relationship in terms of like laughing and joking and taking things too far with each other in terms of like that could almost be offensive, but I love you, like we're just so close like that. And he was always so fond of my family and so nice to them. And, like it was just very difficult to lose someone who brought such greatness to a project every time. Like, it never failed. Every year, every tour, it was like, like he starts us off in every show. Like, he would pray for us, like pray in our group. So it like started us off right. Um, and then once we had to do a show without him, it was definitely different. And the energy was off for those first few shows after. But I don't know if I would necessarily say that there's any concern or like worry moving forward because we all really do feel him still with us. And things just always happen. And I feel like I would sit here forever trying to like recall specific things, but little things like coincidences that you're like, Daniel, like, is that you? Like those kind of things happen so often. And we just know that he is like watching over and also just still touring with us. Like he is there with us every step of the way. When we do run-throughs of the show, we use old edits sometimes where he's talking in them or he's counting or he, like you can hear him in the recording. And it's been a process of like at the beginning it was like a lot of tears and a lot of like hurt. And then it slowly, gradually become to like, oh my God, Daniel, like thanks for coming, like thanks for showing up, or like it's just a healing process and it's a journey. And I think it's at a place now where we are excited to have him come out with us. It's like we know he's going to be there.
Now, I wanted to bring up the part too. Like I know in certain of the shows, like Janet does do Scream, which obviously she's got Michael in the background. What's that like for you? Because I know you mentioned before that Michael, Janet, Brittany are all core people for you. So being able to dance with Michael in a way, like what's that like, and how special is it still for Janet to have Scream and him a part of the tour?
Oh my God, that moment every time, no matter how many times I've done it, how many years, it's such a like beautiful moment in the show. And like the feelings I can't even explain that rush through your body when that song starts and when it's time to, just like I could not even be in that song and just sit there and hear it playing it. And I could feel the same like rush of emotions. It's just so crazy. Like I don't even have words for the feeling. It's like out of this world. But I remember in State of the World, the first time we did Scream, because that wasn't originally, I don't think, in the set list. I think it was like for that tour, for some reason, Gil would always like, depending on the city or depending on the audience, I have no idea what the deciding factor was. But I just always remember like he would walk by our dressing room and be like, we're doing Scream. And we would get ready to do Scream. And then some days he'd be like, no Scream. And then we would just go through the show without Scream. But that first time that we did it and the reaction of the fans was so overwhelming. Like, I feel like I definitely had chills. I feel like I also definitely almost lost like mobility in my body. Like, I was like, I need to wake up. Like, I need to come back to life, Like, I was shook. But yeah, it's so special. Yeah.
We've been speaking a lot about Gil, so I have to ask, like, what does Gil mean to Guero?
Uh, I could cry. No, he, Gil is my family, um, forever and ever. And, I've learned so much from him. And I've got to see him in a very like, I've got to see him as a person as well as a professional. And he's just all around so incredible and just so special and talented. And like watching him do Jay for so long, from when he was like late teens to early 20s, like, you know, it's just inspiring. And I look at old videos of him all the time because I'm like, you are something else. Like, you're not real either. And just to be in a space with him all the time where I get to see how his brain works and how his creativity is, it just feeds me as a creative. And the fact that I also get to spend personal time with him as a friend and like as my family, it also feeds me in a way of like, I have so much love for this person. And he's also blessed me with the most, probably, and the most incredible thing I've done in my career. So the love is just beyond. The love, the respect, the admiration, it's like, I can't even tell you.
And Gil, as you mentioned, has been around Janet since Velvet Rope, since he was like 18, like you mentioned. And I wanted to get your take to tell the fans, like, because you've been around him so much, the awareness and respect that both he and Janet have for the fans. Can you talk about that? Because it just seems like the fans are always forefront in their minds in how you guys are presented to us and what you guys are doing. And
Yeah, I mean, I think they care so much about the fans. And that's always like like you said, the forefront of their heads when creating a show, but just in general also. Like it's like, oh, the fans are gonna love this, or like what would the fans want, or what would they think? But I think because Gil's been around her for so long, like I feel like he knows very well, like what the fans like or what they won't like, or like he cares a lot about, excuse me, their point of views and their opinions. Um, and yeah, I just feel like because he's been there for so long, it's almost second nature for him. It's not like, like I feel like if I were to be in his position, I would be like, oh, I need to like do big time research, like really have to like dig in there. But I think he lived that research. So it just comes like innately.
And what's it been like working with Dean, the choreography that he's brought to the party?
Oh my God, Dean. I love Dean. Um, he's, I mean, his choreography is amazing. And I think it was such a nice, like, breath of fresh air in the Janet world. And, like, I love clean lines. I love, like, pictures. I love it all. And I feel like that's Dean. So it felt second nature to do his stuff and to do his steps. And he also understands the job. He understands the gravity of the world as well. So he puts a lot of care into it, which I think is important because we all care so much. So we all want to care together.
And I have to ask you too about the fans themselves. What do they mean to you, especially because I'm sure like you boys and the girls when they were there too, like you get adopted into this like Janet family of fans. What does that feel? Because I'm sure it's different than any other artist you've probably worked with.
It's 100% different. Like, I feel like the closest maybe would be Backstreet Boys, but even then, it's like 100 times different than that. Like, it's like they just care so much about you, and they go to watch you as well. Like, it's like you feel like you're being seen and you're being supported by the people that are supporting and seeing her as well. It's not just, like I'm performing to somebody and they're like this, like it's not, like I'm not performing to the sides of faces or anything. Like even just on stage, there's connections and it feels authentic and it feels very powerful and loving. Like I feel loved and supported. And like I love them and I care a lot about them as well. Like it's like an extended family of the family.
Now, before I let you go, and I could talk to you for 3 hours, but I like to do this thing where we do fast facts, so the fans get to know you a little bit better. So, so the first question is, what is always in your fridge?
Oh, always in my fridge, eggs. Well, I'm nervous now.
There's no wrong answers. There's no wrong answers. I know you have to be in incredible shape, so I'm sure most of the time you have to eat properly, but what's your favorite cheat meal?
Popeyes or Raising Cane's.
That's nice. Talk to us about your workout, like your workout regime. Like I know you mentioned that you guys have to work out when you're on tour, but you guys must have to stay in shape all the time. So how important is it for you to stay healthy and in shape?
Oh my God, it is a love-hate for me. Like I feel like I'm the same way as Jay in this. Like I hate working out and I hate watching what I eat. Like I would love to just do whatever. But when I am getting ready for tour, I really am very disciplined. Like I count my macros. I cook mostly all my food. It's very rare that I will eat out of my house. And then I'm also like training. I have a trainer out here that I work with. His name's Jason Holmes. He's incredible and he's got me in shape and prepared for every tour since I've started. But I train with him 3 times a week. Just for this tour specifically, I started to incorporate, just because I was dealing with a little bit of like some hamstring issues, I started to incorporate hot yoga and Pilates in my routine. So I see Jason for training like once or twice a week. I do yoga twice a week, and then I try to do Pilates twice a week. So it really fills up my week every day with something. But the whole time I get to eat whatever I want, but it has to fit into this like deficit that I do to get ready for the road. And then once we get on the road, it's so hard to upkeep sometimes because, like you get tired, it's traveling. like the options for food is not always like they're not always available to you. So you just kind of try to do your best to maintain. But in the months prior, I am like, I'm not a fun person.
That's, I'm sure I have no doubt that you have to be super like on the ball with all of that. And when you, I wanted to ask you too, when you're have you ever had to deal with injuries on tour? Like where you've been out with something or
I remember the first tour. So I have two examples for you. The first tour, State of the World, I remember I had to do, and I think it was what is it, nasty or you ought to be thankful, crack. I had to do a knee drop, and I think that tour was 56 cities or something like that, around 50 something cities. I couldn't fit knee pads under my jeans, and I refused to wear my knee pads over my jeans. So I was like, I will be fine. And I was fine for maybe like 45, 46, 47 of the cities. That last week of shows, I remember being like, oh my God, I think like when we would do back-to-back shows, like a Thursday show, a Friday show, that Friday show, when we would get on the bus, my knees would be killing me. And this is a lesson to everybody, protect those knees. So don't be dumb like me. So after that wrapped, I thankfully made it through all the shows, but the month or two after that, I was like so injured, and I had to see my trainer who kind of recalibrated my body to be able to support, to get my knee to be able to support the rest of my body. And it was fine. Came back from it, it was no problem. In Metamorphosis, the last show that we did, we were doing the kicks and if, like the big legs and ifs at the top of if. And I remember looking at my leg when I would like go up and I'd be like, my leg can go way higher. I'm like, I'm gonna kick it harder. Kicked it harder. I was like, no, it can go higher than that. Third time, and we had on those huge combat boots, like huge heavy combat boots. I remember I kicked it the third time so hard that I don't think my leg had the capacity to like bring the boot back down or like stop the boot from going. So I remember my hamstring like popped like here. And in the middle of like doing the steps that came after, I was like, oh, that was not good. Like I was full on dancing and I was like, that's not, like that's not going to be good tomorrow. Did the rest of the show. And if in Metamorphosis was like third or something, like it's at the top of the show. So we did the rest of the show. I was fine. When I got back to LA, I think it was sore, but it was fine. Then I had to dance again and I was like, oh my God, my hamstring is on fire. And I still deal with that like now. Like it never ripped or anything or tore, but it sprained enough. And if I don't work out now or like if I don't stretch, it gets really tight and then it starts to pull on my knee. So that has been the most difficult one, but thankfully I'm able to manage. When we were in Bahamas just recently, I also did a high kick in my throb solo, and I guess I wasn't stretched enough, and it hurt, and it hurt immediately as soon as it happened. I was like, "Oh my God, did I do it again?" I was like, "No, not before the tour. I can't." But I'm fine. I've danced since then. I've done a lot of stuff. So,
apart from your family and friends, who's the coolest person in your phone that you can call or text?
I mean, Jay, obviously.
Okay. He wins. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. What is your favorite Janet Jackson song? No, I'm not talking about dancing, like just favorite Janet Jackson song.
Ooh. I mean, how does anyone choose? Let me think. I mean, I would say All Night for sure. All Night because I think that era is just like what made me want to be a dancer and pursue this, like it's the best. But I will say when Best Things comes on in the show or in rehearsal, I feel like the happiest person in the world. Like it just makes me so happy and I have no idea why. So I'll put that one like in there too.
And what's your favorite piece of choreography like for a Janet tune?
That we've done, you're saying?
Yeah. Like, is it all for you? Is it, I don't know, whatever.
Ooh, such a hard one. I would say it's a tie between maybe feedback and all night. I think all night is very hard to get through in the tour, but that is just like the style that I grew up admiring. And I feel like it's clean, it's crisp, and it's matches the music so well. And when I grew up dancing, that group of like Nick Bass, Danielle, Polanco, Peanut, Brian Friedman, like Nick Flores, Gil, all of like that whole cast that she used in that time is like my idols, like in a line side by side to each other. So it's like, and they looked amazing doing that. And I think that will forever just be my thing.
When you guys are on tour, who's the biggest class clown?
I mean, we're all a mess, but it's between Denzel, me, and Jay for sure.
Okay.
And Gil. Except Gil's is not like goofy class clown. He is like, like he is an, but in a funny way.
That's amazing. If you could switch places with another dancer for a day, like a dancer or choreographer, like for a day, who would it be and why?
In our camp.
In whatever, if they're like, if there was a Beyonce like person that you would have, whatever.
Oh, if I could, that's a good question. I mean, I would maybe switch with like a Brian Friedman, but like back in the Britney days, I think. Currently now, maybe I would switch with I don't know, like a Sean Bankhead or a Jaquel Knight.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all know that you've danced with the best person on the planet, Janet. We know this. Is there another artist though that you wish or that is still on your bucket list that you'd like to work with?
I mean, Britney will forever be on that list, no matter what. Um, I would love to do a Gaga. Um, I would love to do an Ariana Grande. Um, there's always been like an itch for me to do a male artist because I don't really do many. And it was always between obviously like an Usher, a Chris Brown, and a Justin Timberlake. But as I'm getting older and as I'm finding my own voice, I feel like Chris Brown's getting a little further from like who I am and like, like the style is just not really like matching me anymore. And Usher's kind of going in that same direction. So I feel like Justin's probably the closest to like what I would like to do. So that would be like a male artist. But I think there's a lot of female artists. Like obviously, I mean, I've done Tate, but I would love to do more Tate. She's the best. Yeah, yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier before that you said as a dancer, you're not fully fulfilled yet. So is that mean like more tours, artists that you just mentioned that you want to work with, or is it like going to Broadway? Like what hasn't fulfilled Guero yet?
I think there's more artists that I would love to do. And maybe like a movie or like a TV show, like a scripted TV show or something like in that world. I don't think I would want to do Broadway. It's not really my thing. But yeah, tours, artists, and like TV movie stuff. I think I haven't done like a movie ever, I don't think. Yeah, I've never done a movie. I would love to do a movie as a dancer.
Two last questions for you. What do you want the fans to know? Like what message do you have for the fans? Because you have a lot of fans.
Okay, what do I want them to know? Well, the show's gonna be incredible. That's one. And I feel like I don't think anyone is ready. Yeah, I don't think anyone's ready for the summer. It's gonna be like I'm so stoked. And I thought I was stoked last time when I heard everything and saw everything, but I can't wait. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing to say here.
That's good. And last question, because I want the fans to know, what does Janet mean to you?
Uh, OJ. I mean, just like Gil, she is like family, like my sister, I feel like. And we like play fight, we joke, like she's the most special, and I think it's has to do with how she treats you like a human being, like it's like I've been around artists and I've been around a lot of people, and not everyone treats you that nicely. Even just like normal people in your everyday life don't treat you that nicely. And the fact that she is always looking out for your like greatest interests and your well-being, it's like, like it just kind of holds a special place in your heart and in my heart. I'm like, I would do anything for her. And, I feel like that's why we're both still in each other's lives. It's like, I don't think we'll ever leave each other's lives. Like, even if I do end up not dancing with her or something, I think she's forever, like, she's with me to the end.
That's amazing. And I said last question, but I do have one more because I want to leave the fans with you. What are you manifesting like after the tour? Like, what do you see yourself doing in the next like year to 2 years for Guero?
So in real life, like in normal person life, I am manifesting like hopefully a house or an apartment because I'm tired of paying rent. But I would love like a house or an apartment. I also have this dream of like opening a coffee shop out here in Burbank because I just think it's the best place, and I just love coffee. I love the aesthetic of coffee shops and like going to a coffee shop. But yeah, in real people life, that's my goal. And then in my like creative life, I don't know, I'm manifesting like having an artist the way like Gil has Jay, or like Brian used to have Brittany, like I would love to share more in that world. But I do feel like this tour is going to catapult that for me. At least I hope it does. Because I'm really proud of what I did, and I think it's like a foreshadowing of what I'm gonna do and what I can't do.
My vote is for you and Tate, okay?
Yeah, I love her. That's my girl.
Guero, I just want to thank you so much for doing this. You have been on my bucket list for years. I'm so grateful that we finally made this happen. And on behalf of the fans, because you're currently dancing with Janet and you're currently doing amazing things like with Tate, with everything else you're doing with the Bring Pop Stars Back, it's just like amazing. Like just keep doing what you're doing. And we're so grateful to have you as part of the kids forever, forever, and always. So thank you.
No, thank you so much. Like, I'm so happy you asked me to do this. And I know it's been like a long time coming. It's been so chaotic, but I'm like so stoked that it finally happened and that you asked me to do this, and it worked out, like right before I leave too. It's like perfect timing.
This is amazing. So I will just remind everybody that this is Guero Charles. Don't forget to catch him on tour with Janet. And of course, follow him on all of his social media at Guero_Charles.
Hey.
Hey, it's Kelly Alexander, and thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Kelly Alexander Show, so you are the first in line for all the cool content coming your way.